My name is Ethan Hale, and at 11 years old I learned that food isn't guaranteed. It's something people can take for granted until they don't have it. That July, my parents told me they were going to Europe for a month. Barcelona, Florence, Santorini. They dropped two $10 bills and a silver credit card on the kitchen counter. Only for emergencies, my mother said before pulling her suitcase out the door. They didn't wait for an answer. They didn't look back. I didn't know the card wasn't activated. I didn't know that $20 would have to stretch 30 days. And I definitely didn't know that when they returned throwing a celebration for 40 guests to show off their unforgettable European summer, the police would walk into our living room and read them their rights in front of everyone. But that's the ending. This is where it started. The night they left. I stood in the doorway long after the Uber disappeared around the corner. The house felt bigger than usual, quiet enough that I could hear the refrigerator humming from across the hall. I didn't say anything. There was no point. When you're a kid, you assume your parents know what they're doing. Even when the math doesn't add up. 30 days. $20. It added up fast. I didn't realize until much later that someone else, 40 people, actually would witness the outcome. They'd watch the police walk past the catered food, past the slideshow of cathedral photos, past my mother's perfect smile, and ask a question none of them had ever asked before. What did you do to your son? But that moment wasn't the shock. The shock was how easy it was for them to leave. The Hale family lived in a two-story house on the north side of suburban Phoenix. Beige walls, clean lawn, cactus plants lined up in perfect symmetry. My mother liked order rows, angles, frames. Everything had to look intentional. Even us. Inside the garage we kept two cars. My mother's white Lexus hybrid and my father's charcoal pickup. Both spotless. Both chosen because they photographed. My mother, Lauren Hale, wasn't famous, but she acted like she was. She ran an interior design Instagram account with 12,000 followers. Modern desert living. Her bio said. Each week she posted curated snapshots. Sunday brunch tables, matching throw pillows, holiday wreaths. She changed every season. Blessed, grateful, family first. If you scrolled long enough, you'd notice something strange. There weren't many photos of me. When I did appear, I was blurry in the background or cropped at the shoulder. Mom said it was for privacy. But really, I didn't fit the palette. My shirts weren't neutral enough. My expressions weren't staged enough. And I didn't smile on command. My father, Mark, worked long hours as a civil engineer. He came home tired, head full of numbers and deadlines. When Mom talked, he let her talk. When she decided something, he nodded. He wasn't cruel, just absent, like he'd chosen the quietest corner of the household and stayed there. By 11, I'd already learned to move around my parents, instead of with them, make my own cereal, microwave leftovers, walk to school alone, sign permission slips when Mom forgot. Nothing dramatic, just the small things you do when you realize no one is paying attention. When guests visited, Mom called me our independent one. She said it with a laugh, light and practiced. Like independence was a personality trait I'd chosen instead of something I'd been forced into. She never waited for my response. I stopped offering one. People liked our house. They liked my mother. They liked the idea of us. The perfect family in the perfect suburb with the perfect lighting. But perfection is quiet for a reason. Quiet hides things. At 11, I thought invisibility was normal, that every kid learned to make himself smaller so his parents could shine brighter online. I didn't realize yet that being ignored wasn't an accident. It was the design. 2 weeks before everything unraveled, my mother called me downstairs. She was on the couch, laptop open, the screen glowing with a booking website. My father stood near the window, arms folded, staring at nothing in particular. Ethan, Mom said, tone light, as if she were announcing dinner plans. Your father and I need a break. A month in Europe, Barcelona, Florence, Santorini. We leave Monday. I waited. She didn't look up. Dad didn't turn around. Okay. I finally said, who am I staying with? Mom clicked something on the screen. You're staying here. Alone. She sighed. Annoyed I'd even asked. You're 11, not 5. You know how to take care of yourself. I didn't argue, but something in my stomach tightened. I looked at Dad. He kept staring out the window, jaw clenched, pretending he didn't hear. What about Grandma? I asked. Or Uncle James? Your grandmother is busy, Mom said sharply. And James? She paused, lips tightening. We don't involve him in family matters. You know that. I didn't know why. I just knew his name made her shoulders stiffen. Mom stood, pulled two $10 bills from her wallet, and placed them on the coffee table beside a silver credit card. $20 for snacks. And this, she said, tapping the card, is for emergencies. Real emergencies. Don't use it unless the house is burning down. I nodded once. That's all she expected. Good, she said, already turning back to her laptop. We'll be back in exactly 1 month. I picked up the bills and the card. They felt lighter than they should have. Monday morning, I watched them drag their suitcases into the Uber. Mom wore a new dress. Dad wore the same expression he always did, tired. Distant. Somewhere else. Remember to lock up, Mom said, waving without looking at me. And don't bother anyone. The door shut. The car pulled away. The street went quiet. I stood there longer than I meant to, waiting for something, maybe a second glance, maybe a goodbye that felt like a goodbye. Nothing came. Inside, the house echoed. It already felt like they were gone. Later, I'd understand that this moment was the fracture point, the place the story actually broke. But at 11, I only understood one thing. I was on my own now. The first night alone. The house didn't feel like home. It felt like a container room stacked on silence. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to small sounds I'd never noticed before. The hum of the refrigerator, the AC kicking on, a dog barking 2 streets over. I barely slept. The next morning, I opened the fridge. Half a carton of milk. For eggs. A loaf of bread going stale. A jar of pasta sauce. Nothing else. No frite. No leftovers. No actual meals. I put the $20 on the counter and did the math. 30 days. $20. 66 cents a day. I didn't react. Just closed the fridge and stood there until the quiet felt heavy. By day 3, I walked to the small grocery store down the road, picked up a basket, and moved slowly through the aisles, checking prices twice. Ramen was cheap, 70-something cents a pack. Bread was over $1. Peanut butter was too expensive. I bought 6 ramen packs and the cheapest loaf of bread I could find. The cashier asked if I was shopping alone. My mom's in the car, I said. Back home. I split a ramen pack into 2 meals, half for breakfast, half for dinner. It wasn't enough, but it was food. I pretended it was fine. On day 5, I tried ordering a pizza online, entered the credit card numbers. Declined. Tried again. Declined. I flipped the card over, dialed the number, listened to the robotic voice tell me the card wasn't activated. Something in my chest tightened, but I didn't say anything out loud. That evening, I called my mom. 5 rings. She answered on the 7th. Music loud in the background. The card doesn't work, I said. She sighed like I'd ruined her vacation. Ethan, stop being dramatic. You have money. You'll be fine. Don't call again unless it's serious. It is serious. Ethan, she snapped. I'm at dinner. Eat less. Figure it out. Don't make this a thing. She hung up. I didn't cry. I just sat on the kitchen floor, back against the fridge, and felt my stomach twist in on itself. Hunger is quiet like that. A slow tightening that makes your thoughts small. Later that night, I opened Instagram. My mother had posted a photo of her and my father in front of the Florence Cathedral. She held a glass of wine. The caption read, "Living our best life." I stared at it for a long time, then grabbed the old tablet she'd handed down to me after upgrading. I opened the camera and hit record. Day 5. I said, ramen for dinner. Car didn't work. My voice sounded flat, not angry, just tired. I didn't know why I recorded it. Maybe because no one believed kids unless they had proof. Maybe because staying silent didn't feel like safety anymore. I didn't know yet that someone was watching. Not them. Someone else. For now, it was just me. A quiet house. And a month that was already starting to feel longer than a year. On day 7, someone knocked on the door. I froze for a second. Nobody ever came by for me. I walked to the window, first habit, I guess, and saw Mr. Harold from next door. Blue house, peeling paint. Old tabby cat, always sitting in the window. He'd waved at me for years, but we'd never had a real conversation. I opened the door just enough to look at him. Hey there, Ethan, he said. His eyes scanned me in a way most adults didn't. Haven't seen your parents' cars around. Everything all right? They're on a trip. I said, business. My voice sounded normal. Practiced. Uh-huh. He nodded slowly. And who's looking after you? I'm good, I answered. Maybe too quickly. I can handle it. He didn't challenge the lie. He just studied me, my cracked lips. The way my shirt hung a little looser than it used to. The dark under my eyes. If he knew exactly what he was looking at. He didn't say, "You eaten today?" He asked. Automatic. Not true. He exhaled. Soft and tired. Listen, son, I made too much spaghetti. Hate to throw it out. You want a plate? I didn't want to need anything from anyone. Pride hits harder when you're hungry. But hunger won. Okay, I said. At his table, I ate quietly. Not fast. Not desperate, just steady. He didn't talk much either, which I appreciated. Some adults fill quiet with noise. He let quiet stay quiet. When I finished, he folded his hands. Ethan, where are your folks really? I didn't plan to tell him, but exhaustion makes honesty slip out. Europe, I said. 1 month. They left $20. The card doesn't work. He didn't react with shock or outrage. Just a long, slow breath. That made it somehow worse and better. He wasn't surprised by cruelty. He recognized it. You need me to call someone, he asked gently. Police? A relative? Anyone? I shook my head fast. Please, don't. My mom. She said not to bother anyone. His jaw tightened. He didn't argue. Though, all right, he said quietly. I won't call, but I'm bringing you meals. No excuse. I didn't thank him out loud. Didn't know how, but something eased inside me, barely noticeable. Like loosening a belt 1 notch. Before I left, he said, Ethan, sometimes it's the things you write down or record that protect you later. Evidence matters. I didn't fully understand it then, but the weight of the word evidence stuck with me. Harold kept his promise. He stayed silent. He didn't interfere, but he watched. He cared. And he waited longer than he should have until waiting wasn't an option anymore. By day 18, hunger wasn't the worst part anymore. The worst part was how normal it was starting to feel. Wake up, check the fridge, split whatever was left, try not to think too much. Repeat. That was the day I decided to record everything properly, not just small, shaky clips. Not out of fear, out of clarity. Harold's words kept circling in my head. Sometimes evidence protects you, so I treated it like a job. Every morning, before I said anything to anyone, I picked up the old tablet and hit record. Day 18. I said, pointing the camera at the refrigerator. 2 eggs left. Bread's almost gone. No milk. I zoomed in on expiration dates, on empty shelves, on my hands thinner than they'd been a month ago. I filmed the bathroom scale. 84 pounds. Down another one. No emotion. Just facts. Cold. Simple facts. I screenshot every email my mother sent. The short ones. The irritated ones. The ones that said I was being dramatic or that she was on vacation and couldn't deal with this. I read them aloud on camera. My voice flat. Sometimes I held the tablet at arm's length and just documented myself. The shadows under my eyes. The ribs starting to show. I didn't make speeches. I didn't explain. I just stated the date and the numbers. It was easier that way. My journal came next, a spiral notebook I found in a drawer. I wrote short entries. Efficient. Day 19. 1 egg, half ramen. Stomach hurts. Mom posted lobster dinner in Monaco. Day 20. No food left. Harold brought a sandwich. Don't know why he cares. Day 21. School emailed mom. No reply. At night, when the house felt too big, I watched my mother's Instagram posts. Her standing on terraces overlooking the ocean. Plates full of olives, seafood, pastries. Captions like savoring every moment. I didn't get angry. I didn't yell. I just recorded another video. Day 21. I said, she spent more on this meal than I've eaten in a week. The tablet became a kind of anchor. A line between what I felt and what I knew. If I couldn't rely on adults, I could rely on evidence. Hard data. Proof. Harold noticed the shift. You're documenting more, he said one evening when he dropped off dinner. He nodded once, like he understood something unspoken. Keep going. So I did. Every day. Every meal. Every email. Every number. Not because I planned revenge. I wasn't thinking that far. I just wanted the truth somewhere outside my head. Somewhere it couldn't be argued with. Somewhere it could be seen. Summer school started the second week. My mother had signed me up months earlier, not because she cared about my grades, but because she didn't want me lying around all summer. Now I understood the real reason. It kept people from noticing I was alone. The first day, I showed up late. My clothes were wrinkled. I hadn't figured out the washing machine yet. My hair stuck up in places. I hadn't slept more than a few hours in days. I kept my head down as I walked to my seat. Ethan, Mrs. Patterson said, her voice softer than usual. Are you feeling all right? Yes. Ma'am. Short. Automatic. She didn't push. But I felt her eyes on me all through class. Day 3. During math. The room tilted. The board blurred. I tried to blink it away, to sit straighter. But my body didn't care what I wanted. My hand slipped off the desk. Then the floor rushed up faster than I expected. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the nurse's cot. The school nurse hovered over me, worry sharp in her expression. Honey, did you eat breakfast this morning? Yes, I said. It felt easier than explaining anything. What did you eat? Ramen, earlier. My voice sounded thin, even to me. She didn't argue. She guided me to the scale. Numbers flashed. 93. 84. I'd lost 9 pounds in less than 3 weeks. She wrote something down. Then another thing. Her face hardened. Ethan, she said quietly. Where are your parents? I looked at my hands. They looked smaller, bonier. They're not here. Who's taking care of you? Silence. I wasn't trying to hide anything. I just didn't know how to answer in a way that wouldn't explode my life. Eventually, I said, no one. The nurse stared at me for a long moment. Not pity, real concern. She stepped out and returned with Mrs. Patterson. They talked in low voices, but their eyes kept coming back to me. Patterson sat down beside the cot. Ethan, she said gently, you don't have to explain everything right now, but I need you to know, we see you. I didn't cry. I just nodded once. That was all I could manage. That evening, my mom called. I was at the kitchen table eating rice. Mr. Harold had brought over when my phone buzzed with an international number. Ethan, she said immediately, voice sharp. The school called me. What did you say? Nothing. You're embarrassing me, she hissed. I am in Santorini having dinner. And I get a call saying, you have health concerns, you have food. You have money. Stop being dramatic. I stayed quiet. If you tell anyone anything, I will send you to a boarding school the moment I come home. Do you understand me? My jaw tightened. Don't call again. Click. I stared at the table, at the simple meal in front of me. Something in me settled, not broken, not defeated, just settled. That night, I recorded another video. Day 22. I said, she threatened me. I'm not lying. I'm not exaggerating. This is what it is. I didn't know it yet. But that was the final moment the adults at school needed. Their silence wasn't an option anymore. The report was coming. Day 22. Someone knocked again. Not hesitant this time, steady. Deliberate. I checked the window the way I always did. A woman stood on the porch. Blazer. Clipboard. Calm. Posture. I opened the door halfway. Hi. Ethan. She said with a small, steady smile. My name is Karen Olerin. I'm with Child Protective Services. May I come in? I didn't move at first. Mom's voice echoed in my head. Don't tell anyone anything. But I was tired. Tired of the quiet, the hunger, the guessing, and something about Karen felt grounded, like she wasn't here to guess. Okay, I said. Inside. She didn't look around quickly the way nosy adults do. She took her time. The silent living room, the stack of unwashed dishes, the air that felt heavy. She wrote a couple of notes. No expression changing on her face. Your parents are in Europe, she asked. Yes. Ma'am. How long have you been alone? 3 weeks. Who's been taking care of you? I paused, then answered the only honest way I could. No one. Karen didn't flinch. She simply nodded and closed her notebook. Can I see the kitchen? I led her there. She opened the refrigerator. The cold light exposed everything. 2 eggs. An almost empty loaf of bread. Condiments. Nothing else. She checked the trash ramen wrappers. Mostly. Then she turned to look at me again. Not shocked. Not pitying. Just seeing. Ethan, is there anything you want to show me? This time, I didn't hesitate. I went to my room, grabbed the tablet, and handed it to her. I recorded stuff. I said, in case someone thought I was lying. She pressed play on a clip me showing the empty fridge, the date, the scale reading. When the video ended, she inhaled slowly. You're very brave, Ethan, she said. These videos are important. Her voice wasn't dramatic, just firm. Then she asked something no adult had asked me before. Do you want to be safe? A simple question. Heavy answer. Karen nodded once, like a promise had been made. The next morning, she called my mother. I wasn't in the room, but Karen told me what happened later. Hail, this is Karen O'Laren from Arizona Child Protective Services. Mom's tone turned sugary. Oh my goodness. Is Ethan okay? What happened? Karen explained the report. The days alone. The weight loss. Mom laughed gently. Ethan exaggerates. He has a babysitter. Joanna. Lovely woman. Karen asked for the babysitter's contact. Mom said she'd send it right over. She never did. Karen checked. There was no Joanna in the neighborhood registry. No one had visited the house. So Karen filed a subpoena for my parents' credit card statements. 3 days later, she brought the documents to Mr. Harold's house, where she had moved me temporarily for safety. Ethan, she said, opening the folder carefully. Your parents spent $48. 910 inches Europe this month. Restaurants, hotels, shopping. She turned the page. The supplementary card they left with you. Another pause. It was never activated. You couldn't have bought anything even if you tried. I didn't speak. Didn't need to. Something inside me, not anger. Not grief, just aligned. Like the truth had finally stepped into the room. What happens now? I asked. Karen closed the folder gently. Now, she said, we make sure you're safe. And when your parents return, there will be consequences. My parents came home on a Saturday. A clear Arizona sky. Heat rising off the pavement in waves. From Mr. Harold's living room window. I watched the setup begin long before they arrived, cars pulling up. Neighbors carrying gift bags. Women in sundresses. Men in golf shirts. 40 people showing up to celebrate a vacation I hadn't eaten through. Inside my house. Balloons hung from the banister. A banner stretched across the living room. Welcome home. Hails. A slideshow played on the TV, photos from Europe. Cathedrals. Beaches. Champagne glass. My mother posing like she belonged everywhere except home. I wasn't in the house. Wasn't at the party. They had no idea where I was. From Harold's window, I could see my mother moving through the crowd, new dress. New tan. New jewelry from Milan. She touched people's arms when she talked. Laughed too loud. Performed. Always performing. Dad trailed behind her, nodding and smiling like he was half a second behind in his own life. They didn't look worried. They didn't look like people who were about to be arrested. Karen arrived first. Dark sedan. Calm walk. Clipboard in hand. 2 uniformed officers behind her, Officer Hale and Officer Morales. They waited across the street. Out of view. My mother lifted a champagne glass. Guests clapped. She started a speech, something about recharging. Gratitude. Family time. Watching from a distance felt strange. Detached. Like watching someone else's life collapse in slow motion. Then the doorbell rang. Mom opened it with her party smile already set. The smile dropped fast when she saw Karen. Hail, Karen said. Professional. Steady. I'm Karen O'Laren with Child Protective Services. These officers are here with me. We need to speak with you and your husband. Conversation stopped. Music kept playing. Awkwardly. As 40 people turned to look, my mother tried to step outside, keeping her voice gentle, pretending everything was fine. This really isn't a good time. We're hosting. This concerns your son, Karen said. The room went silent. Dad stepped forward, confused. Is Ethan okay? Karen didn't bother softening anything. Your son has been in protective custody for 4 days. Mom's face snapped into something sharp. What? That's impossible. He's upstairs resting. She said it loudly. For the room, not for Karen. Karen lifted the folder. Ethan has not been in this house for 4 days. He has been staying with a neighbor for his safety. Whispers spread through the crowd like heat. Mom laughed high. Brittle. This is ridiculous. There has been some mistake. Karen opened the folder. We have video documentation recorded by Ethan over a 3-week period. Empty refrigerator. Weight loss. Your emails. The school's medical report. And your credit card statements obtained through subpoena. Dad's face drained. He looked like he was shrinking. Mom's voice cracked. This is being blown out of proportion. He had a babysitter. There was no babysitter. Karen said calmly. We verified with the neighborhood registry. No adult entered this home for 30 days. Someone in the crowd gasped. A champagne flute clinked against tile. My mother's eyes darted around the room, searching for someone to believe her. No one moved. Then Karen nodded to the officers. Officers, please proceed. My mother backed up fast, running into the coffee table. No, wait, this is a misunderstanding. Officer Hale stepped forward. Ma'am, you are being charged with child endangerment under Arizona Revised Statute 13 to 3619. Please turn around and place your hands behind your back. The room froze. It felt like the air stopped moving. Dad reached toward Mom, voice shaking. Lauren, just do what they say. She snapped at him. Don't touch me. This is your fault. Too. But she still turned around. The metallic click of handcuffs echoed in a room full of people who had once liked her Instagram posts. Dad didn't run, didn't argue. When the second officer approached him, he just exhaled like someone finally letting go of a weight he'd been pretending not to carry. Sir, please place your hands behind your back. He complied. Karen then nodded to Officer Morales. Please play it. The slideshow on the TV flickered off. A new video appeared, holding the tablet, speaking directly into the camera. Day 15. My voice said, there's one egg left. Mom posted a picture from Monaco. The video showed the empty fridge, the scale, my face thinner, eyes dim. Guests stared, horrified. One woman covered her mouth. A man whispered, oh my God. Another clip. Day 18. Reading my mother's emails aloud, hearing her dismiss me while eating at Michelin star restaurants. Then the video from day 22. The threat, her words, my monotone voice repeating them. My mother broke, then not out of guilt, but out of fear. She's lying, she screamed. He's manipulating those videos. He's making me look. Enough, Karen said. Quiet, but final. Your son told the truth. He documented the truth. This is what happened. My mother's voice cracked into a whisper. He was never supposed to show anyone. And that was the moment I realized she wasn't horrified by what she'd done. She was horrified she'd been seen. The officers guided my parents toward the door. People moved out of the way. Stunned. Silent. No goodbyes. No sympathy. Just distance. On the porch, more neighbors had gathered. Phones hovered. Recording. My mother's face collapsed as she finally understood the shape of the consequence. She tried to look for me, some instinctual last attempt to find control, but I wasn't there. Not for her. Not anymore. From Harold's window, I watched the police place them in separate cars. I didn't smile. Didn't cry. Didn't feel triumph. Just finality. A quiet closing of a door that had been hanging open too long. The lights on the patrol cars flashed once, twice. Then they drove away. The world didn't end. It just got honest. The day after the arrest, my world didn't shift the way I expected. The house was still quiet. Harold still made breakfast. The Arizona heat still pressed against the windows. Life didn't explode. It just kept moving. Karen sat with me at Harold's kitchen table that morning, a thick folder in front of her. Ethan, I want you to understand what happens next. I nodded. No questions. I was used to letting adults talk. Your parents will be charged with child endangerment. It's a felony in this state. Her voice stayed calm, like she'd done this conversation 100 times. I took the information in the same way I'd taken everything else that month, quietly. One piece at a time. They'll likely take a plea deal to avoid trial. She continued. Probation, community service, mandatory counseling. I waited. And, Ethan, the state will move to suspend their parental rights. At least temporarily. I didn't flinch. People expect kids to break down at a sentence like that. Ask why. I just said, okay. Karen studied me for a moment, maybe expecting more. But there wasn't anything else. Do you want to know if they asked about you? She asked gently. It came out quicker than I expected, but it was the truth. She closed the folder. You don't have to see them. You don't have to speak to them. Everything goes through me or through the court. That felt strangely like breathing room. A week later, their lawyer tried to contact me. Not directly. Everything filtered through Karen. He said, my parents misjudged the situation. That the month alone was an oversight. And that they deeply regretted the misunderstanding. He didn't mention the credit card, or the emails, or the videos. Karen responded for me. I didn't need to. The evidence said everything. Court hearings came quickly. I wasn't required to attend. And I didn't. I preferred distance. People think kids want closure. I wanted quiet. In the end, the judge ruled exactly what Karen had predicted. 2 years probation, 200 hours of community service, mandatory parenting classes, and a permanent restriction on their parental rights. Parents have a duty. The judge had said, according to Karen, these parents abandoned theirs. When Karen told me, I didn't celebrate. I didn't feel vindicated. The verdict didn't give me back the food I didn't eat. or the nights I didn't sleep. It just drew a line in the sand. A boundary the world finally agreed I deserved. 3 days after the hearing, someone knocked on Mr. Harold's door. Not a heavy knock. Light. Unsure. Harold glanced at me before opening it. A woman stood there, mid-30s. Jeans. Simple sweater. No makeup designed for Instagram. Her eyes scanned the room until they landed on me. "Ethan," she said, voice cracking just a little. "I'm your aunt, Ruth Hale." The name wasn't familiar. My mother never talked about her. Or anyone. Really? I didn't move. Didn't say anything. She stepped inside when Harold gestured her in. When she finally stood close enough to see me clearly, my weight loss. The shadows on my face, her expression broke. "Oh, sweetheart," she whispered. She stopped herself from reaching out, giving me space. That earned a point in her favor. "Your teacher called me," she said. "Patterson." She found my number in an old emergency contact form your mother forgot to erase. She let out a breath. "I came as soon as I heard." I nodded once. I didn't know what to do with her words, so I didn't do anything. We sat at Harold's kitchen table. She explained slowly, carefully, like she knew I didn't trust easily. "Your mother and I stopped talking 5 years ago," she said, because I told her she cared more about her image than about being a parent. She didn't like hearing that. That tracked with the woman I knew. Ruth looked at me directly. "What happened is not your fault. None of it. And you're not going back to that house." I watched her. Steady. Quiet. I didn't see pity. I saw resolve. She pulled out paperwork. CPS-approved temporary guardianship. I filed to make it permanent. I studied her face. Not looking for lies, just trying to understand why someone I barely knew would fight for me. Why I finally asked. She held my gaze. "Because you're family, and because someone should have shown up for you a long time ago." I didn't respond, but something inside me shifted. Not hope. Not yet. More like permission. Permission to consider the idea that I didn't have to do everything alone. Moving into her apartment felt strange. Smaller than my old house. Messier. Warmer. "This room's yours," she said, opening a door to a small bedroom. "We can set it up however you want. Posters. Shelves. Your choice." My choice. That wasn't a phrase I heard much growing up. We ate dinner together, pasta with jarred sauce. Nothing special, but she sat across from me, actually listening when I answered questions. Not performing. Not pretending. "I'm not perfect," she said one night. "I'll mess up sometimes, but I'm here, and I'm staying." I didn't say anything back. Not because I didn't believe her, because I didn't know how to respond to steadiness that didn't require anything from me. But when she wrote Ethan's basketball tryouts on the kitchen calendar 3 weeks later, something loosened in my chest. Not trust. Not yet, but the beginning of it. Healing didn't arrive in some dramatic moment. It showed up slowly, almost unnoticed, like the way soreness fades after an injury. One day you realize the pain is still there, just quieter. Ruth put me in therapy within a month of living with her. My therapist, Dr. Reeves. It didn't ask me to spill everything in the first session. She didn't push. She just asked questions that made space. "Ethan, how are you sleeping? Are you eating enough? Do you feel safe?" A pause. She studied me, not doubting the words, but watching the way I carried them. Over time, I learned therapy wasn't about recounting every detail. It was more like sorting tools, figuring out which ones were broken, which ones still worked, which ones I needed to build from scratch. I didn't talk about my parents much. Reeves didn't force it. When I did mention them, it was factual, like reporting weather. My mom emailed again. What did she say? That she wants to talk. Do you want to talk to her? That's a boundary. She said it simply, like stating my height or age. I learned boundaries weren't punishments. They were choices, locks on doors only I controlled. The first year with Ruth, I checked the refrigerator every morning. Some habits die hard. Once I confirmed there was food, the knot in my chest loosened a little. I didn't tell Ruth about that. I didn't have to. She seemed to understand anyway. As I grew older, she gave me more independence. Not because she wanted to step away, but because she trusted me to step forward. She showed up at basketball games, parent-teacher conferences, school ceremonies, always in the back row, never drawing attention. When I turned 13, letters from my mother started coming more regularly. Not handwritten emails filtered through attorneys, through CPS, requests, apologies that felt more like negotiations, attempts to rewrite context. I didn't answer, not out of spite, because I didn't owe her a response. Reeves reinforced it. You're protecting yourself. Ethan, that's not cruelty. That's maturity. Ruth never pressured me. She kept every letter in a folder in case I wanted them someday. I didn't. By 16, I'd built a life that didn't orbit around the past. Good grades, varsity basketball, a part-time job at a bike repair shop, friends who didn't know my history unless I chose to tell them. Ruth and I settled into a kind of rhythm, quiet dinners, shared routines, occasional disagreements that were resolved with conversation instead of fear. She wasn't trying to replace anyone. She was just showing me what steadiness looked like. When I got accepted into a pre-law program on a full scholarship, Ruth cried. I didn't. Not because I wasn't proud, because my pride didn't need to spill out to be real. A few months before I turned 18, a plain envelope showed up in Ruth's mailbox. The handwriting on the front stopped me cold. My mother's. I didn't open it right away. I put it in my desk drawer next to the old tablet, the one I'd used to record everything. 2 pieces of evidence from 2 versions of my life. It took me weeks before I finally opened the envelope. She apologized. Sort of. Explained her childhood. Explained her flaws. Said therapy was helping. Said she hoped one day I'd forgive her. But she understood if I didn't. I didn't feel anger reading it. I didn't feel moved either. It was like reading a letter addressed to someone else. I folded it back into the envelope and put it away. Forgiveness wasn't something I needed in order to move on. Boundaries were, and I'd already built those. By the time I left for college, I wasn't running from my past. I was simply walking toward a future that finally belonged to me. People ask me sometimes if I regretted telling the truth, showing the videos, letting everything fall the way it did. The answer is simple. I didn't destroy my family. My parents destroyed the idea of family long before I ever hit record. All I did was stop covering for them. If you grew up invisible, if you learned early that your comfort didn't matter, if you were told that silence makes you strong, hear this from someone who lived through it. Silence doesn't protect you. It protects the people hurting you. You're allowed to speak. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to protect yourself, even from the people who were supposed to do that job first. I survived that month alone. I documented everything. I let the truth stand where I couldn't. And when the consequences hit, when officers walked into my mother's perfect party and read her rights in front of 40 shocked guests, that wasn't revenge. That was reality finally catching up. Family isn't just blood. It's who shows up. Ruth showed up. Harold showed up. Patterson showed up. Karen showed up. The people who love you won't ask you to starve for them. They won't ask you to hide the truth. They won't punish you for needing help. My parents left me with $20 and an inactive credit card. But I walked away with something they were never capable of giving me. Boundaries. Clarity. A life I'm finally allowed to call my own. If my story hit something familiar in you, if you recognized a piece of your own life in mine, then you already know the truth. You deserve better. You always did. If you want more stories about truth, survival, and the kind of strength most people never talk about, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. Check the description for the next video. Someone out there is living a story that needs to be heard. This story was created by the Boundaries and Bloodlines team for entertainment purposes only. Do not imitate or replicate any actions described here under any circumstances.